Get ready, because today's story is one that will make you smile, make you laugh, and might even bring a tear to your eye. What you are about to witness is the kind of moment that only happens once in a very long time on a talent show stage. A moment where innocence meets greatness. A moment where a child, barely old enough to tie his shoes, walks into one of the biggest spotlights in the world, and owns it like a superstar who has been doing it for decades. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, make yourself at home, because today we are diving into one of the most adorable, electrifying, and unforgettable auditions in Got Talent history. This is the story of the 4-year-old drummer, Aythan Arias, the boy who melted hearts, shook the room, and left every judge absolutely losing their minds. Before we get into the audition itself, take a second and imagine this. You are sitting in a massive theater. Thousands of people around you are whispering, waiting for the next contestant. The lights feel warm, the stage feels endless, and the judges are ready for anything. But nobody, absolutely nobody, is expecting a 4-year-old child to confidently walk out holding a pair of drumsticks like he's walking into his own music studio. That was the moment when tiny Aythan made his entrance, and trust me, people had no idea what was coming. The host introduces him, and the crowd goes, "Ah," instantly. He's small, shy-looking, and standing there with his drumsticks in hand. The judges smile politely, thinking this will be cute but simple. Maybe he will tap along to a beat. Maybe he will hit a few drums, the audience will clap because he's adorable, and then he'll go home with applause and encouragement. That's what everyone expected. What they got instead was something completely different. But before we step onto the stage with him, let's rewind just a little bit. Because to truly understand why this moment was so powerful, we need to understand where his love of drums came from. Aythan grew up in a household where music wasn't just background noise. It was part of daily life, something that filled the living room, the kitchen, and even the backyard. His father loved music and often played drums casually at home. One day, when Aythan was not even 3 years old, he reached out toward the drums, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with fascination. He hit the drum once, then twice, then again. His father watched closely, noticing something unusual. Unlike most toddlers who hit randomly with no sense of rhythm, Aythan's tiny hands were surprisingly controlled. He was hitting patterns. His rhythm was consistent. He wasn't just banging things for fun. He was listening, learning, building something inside himself. From that day, his parents couldn't deny it. This boy wasn't just curious, he was musical. And as months went by, his sense of rhythm became sharper. He would hear songs on the radio and start tapping along on tables, chairs, pots, pans, anything he could find. Instead of toys, he wanted drumsticks. Instead of cartoons, he wanted music videos. Instead of playground time, he wanted to sit and learn beats he wasn't supposed to understand at his age. His family made videos of him practicing, and those videos became a sensation among friends and neighbors. People around him said, "You have to show this to the world." And before long, his parents knew exactly where they needed to take him, the Got Talent Argentina stage. It was a big decision. After all, he was only 4 years old, but they believed in him, not because he was a child prodigy, but because he loved what he did. And they wanted him to experience something extraordinary. So the big day arrived. Backstage, Aythan sat on a stool, his legs too short to touch the ground, his drumsticks in hand, swinging them with joy. The crew smiled at him, some unsure if he would freeze on stage, others thinking he might get overwhelmed. The cameras were rolling, the lights were ready, and the audience was waiting. His mother knelt beside him, adjusted his tiny shirt, and kissed him on the forehead. His father whispered, "Just have fun, mi campeón." Those would be the last words Aythan heard before walking out. As he stepped onto the stage, the crowd let out a wave of excitement. He looked so tiny under the spotlight that it almost felt like the stage would swallow him up. But something magical happened. As soon as he approached the drum kit, his expression changed. The shy 4-year-old vanished. In his place stood a little musician, confident and focused, gripping his drumsticks with intention. The judges watched him closely, not knowing what to expect. One of the judges leaned forward with a warm smile and asked, "Hola pequeño. What's your name?" He answered with a soft, adorable voice, "Aythan." Then came the second question, "What are you going to do for us today?" With zero hesitation, he responded, "Tocar la batería." Play the drums. The audience instantly fell in love. The judges exchanged glances, all thinking the same thing. This is going to be cute. But they had no idea that cuteness was just the beginning. The music started. It wasn't slow, it wasn't simple, and it wasn't something anyone expected a 4-year-old to understand. It was a fast rhythm, energetic, sharp, and filled with complex patterns. For a second, the audience held its breath. Then, boom, Aythan went to war on those drums. His arms moved like lightning. His timing was tight, his hits were clean, and his energy was explosive. He wasn't just hitting the drums, he was performing. He was feeling the music. His little foot worked the bass pedal like a professional. His hands bounced between the snare and toms like a seasoned musician. His fills were aggressive, powerful, incredibly precise. It was absolutely mind-blowing. The judges went from smiling politely to dropping their jaws in complete disbelief. One judge actually stood up mid-performance, hands on his head, unable to process what he was seeing. Another judge kept laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. The camera cut to the audience, where people were screaming, cheering, dancing, waving their arms like they were watching a world-famous rock drummer in concert. And through it all, little Aythan kept going. Not nervous. Not shaky. Just happy. Focused. In his element. His head moved to the rhythm, his curls bouncing with every beat, and the more the audience screamed, the harder he played. You could feel it. He loved this moment. He wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't scared. He was living his dream, even at the age of 4, on a stage far bigger than himself. Halfway through his performance, he executed a drum fill so unexpected, so complex, and so rhythmically perfect that the entire theater erupted at once. It was the kind of fill professional drummers practice for years. And yet here he was, casually doing it with the pure joy of a child doing what he loves. The judges literally jumped out of their seats. One judge turned to another and shouted, "No puede ser, this can't be real." But it was real. It was happening live, right in front of them. When the music ended, Aythan lifted the drumsticks above his head with the biggest smile on his face, like he was celebrating his own victory. The audience exploded. The judges clapped. Some were laughing, others shaking their heads in disbelief. One judge covered her mouth, trying not to cry because she was so overwhelmed with joy. You could feel the electricity in the room. Everyone stood up. It was a standing ovation so loud that the little boy had to cover his ears because the cheers were way louder than he expected. His parents backstage were crying, hugging each other, unable to believe what their son had just done. The stage manager smiled proudly, saying, "This boy is going viral tonight." And he was right, because moments like this don't just stay on a stage. They travel. They spread. They inspire. As the judges prepared to speak, the crowd kept chanting his name, Aythan. 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 One of the judges leaned forward, still in shock, and said, "I don't know how you did what you just did. You are 4 years old, and you play better than adults who have been doing this for 20 years. Another judge added, "That wasn't just good. That was unbelievable. You have something very special." The third judge couldn't stop laughing as he said, "I completely lost it. I couldn't believe my eyes. You are a star, Pequeño." And the last judge simply said, "I have one word for you, wow." Then came the decision. And of course, it was unanimous. 4 yeses. A pass straight into the next round. A thunder of applause. A moment that would live forever in the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. As he waved goodbye, one of the judges jokingly asked, "Can you teach me?" The whole room burst into laughter. What followed after the show was even more incredible. The video of his audition went viral within hours, spreading across social media platforms worldwide. People from countries far away, places that didn't even speak Spanish, were sharing the clip of the tiny drummer who played like a legend. Musicians commented saying, "This kid is the future." Drummers reacted with amazement. Parents showed the video to their own children, hoping it would inspire them. And within days, Aythan became an internet sensation. But what makes his story even more beautiful is something subtle, something many viewers don't see. It's that behind all the talent, behind all the showmanship, behind all the applause, he is still just a child. A child who plays with toys, who loves cartoons, who gets ice cream after rehearsals, who takes naps in the afternoon, and who doesn't fully understand the magnitude of what he has accomplished. What the world sees as talent, he sees as fun. What the world sees as extraordinary, he sees as playtime. And that innocence is what makes his performance so powerful. He is not trying to impress anyone. He's simply doing what he loves, with joy, purity, and passion. In interviews after the show, his parents were emotional. They said they never pushed him. Never forced him. Never pressured him. They simply gave him space to explore, to learn, to enjoy music at his own pace. His father said, "I just want him to be happy." His mother added, "Whatever he becomes, we will support him." And that loving environment is what makes talents like this blossom. Not strict rules, not unrealistic expectations, just love, patience, and encouragement. But perhaps the most heartwarming part of this entire journey is what happened the day after the audition aired. Aythan woke up to see himself on television. He watched the entire performance with his legs dangling off the couch, holding a cookie in one hand and a toy car in the other. When he saw the crowd cheering, he didn't understand why people were shouting his name. He turned to his father and asked, "Are they happy?" And his father replied, "Yes, Niño. They are very happy." He smiled, nodded, and continued watching as if it was just a fun video, not realizing he had just become a national treasure. His journey didn't end with the audition. In the weeks that followed, he returned to the show for the next stage. The pressure was higher, the audience bigger, the judges stricter. But, once again, he walked to the drums without fear. If anything, he walked with even more confidence. And his performance was another explosion of talent, rhythm, and charm. Although today's video focuses on his first audition, it's important to mention that his consistency proved he wasn't a one-time wonder. He was a real artist, even at 4 years old. Today, many young musicians look up to him as inspiration. Teachers use his audition to motivate their students. Parents show his video to encourage creativity. Drummers study his hand technique, amazed at how natural it comes to him. And as he grows older, his potential continues to expand. If he continues on this path, he could very well become one of the best drummers of his generation. But even if he chooses a different road in life, this moment will always be a part of him, a moment where the world stopped and recognized the spark inside a little boy with a giant heartbeat for music. And if we step back for a second, we can ask ourselves, why do moments like this mean so much? Why do we get emotional watching a child perform? Why do judges lose their minds, audiences scream, and viewers around the world click replay over and over? The answer is simple. Because childhood is pure. Because talent is beautiful. Because passion is contagious. And because seeing someone so young do something so incredible reminds us that there is magic in this world. Magic that doesn't need explanation. Magic that doesn't need logic. Magic that simply exists, and touches everyone who sees it. Aythan didn't walk onto that stage to impress judges. He didn't walk on to win a trophy. He walked on because he loves drums. And sometimes, the simplest reason creates the most extraordinary outcome. So the next time you watch his performance, look closely. Look at the way he smiles when he hits the drums just right. Look at how naturally his hands move. Look at the expression on his face when the music starts. Look at how the audience reacts, how the judges freeze, how the energy shifts. Because what you're witnessing is not just talent. It's not just skill. It's joy. Pure, innocent, powerful joy. And that is why the judges lost it. That is why the crowd lost it. That is why the internet lost it. Because in the middle of a world full of pressure, seriousness, and stress, a little 4-year-old boy reminded us that happiness can be loud, happiness can be rhythmic, happiness can come with drumsticks. Happiness can come from the smallest person on the biggest stage. This has been the story of Aythan Arias, the 4-year-old drummer who became a global sensation. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the greatest children's auditions ever seen, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who needs a smile today. Because sometimes, all it takes is one beat, one rhythm, one tiny drummer, to remind us that life can still surprise us.